Hey everyone, this is the Kubeflow Notebooks meeting for the 16th of October, 2025. As always, I'd just like to quickly introduce what Notebooks 2.0 is because it's the main thing we're working on. Here is the issue. It's been designed over many years and been worked on for a long time now, but we're getting close to a release, which is why we're always talking about it. Here's an FAQ. It's a full rewrite of the project. It's a lot better for customization from an admin and user perspective. It lets admins abstract away a lot of the Kubernetes complexity from their users by providing kind of templates and other things. Lots of other cool features as well. But if you want to read more about it, right here, there's a design doc. And of course, ask questions in the Slack or other places. Or if you have a need or want to contribute, please do. If you have Go experience or front-end experience, you are probably very helpful. So please reach out on the Slack to me or Andy, and we can help find you some tasks if you have time to work on them. Okay, let's quickly, if anyone wants to introduce themselves. I think we've got mostly existing people here, so I think we'll skip that today. And I'll just leave that there. Okay, so the one topic on the community side is that we have KubeCon coming up in a very short period of time, in like under a month. So I think there was some discussion on the previous overall community meeting about having every working group put anything they want as like a looped sort of presentation that happens in a recording on the booth so that even when we're not there, people can learn about the thing we care about. In this case, probably Notebooks 2.0. And so what I think we should do is just agree that, we're going to make like a 5-minute looped presentation or something like that. And so in this case, because show floors can be kind of noisy, we should probably focus on a visual kind of presentation that's a slide deck, but has meaning even when you're like something that the person, if they want to, who's standing in front of it could point to and talk to. We can give some pointers to, and I'll help them ask questions. But if not, then it should have subtitles or notes or something, and we can think about how we do it. But Andy, I know you were talking about this before the recording, so maybe do you want to quickly say what you said?
Yeah, I think that the plan was we'd like to get Harshad's PR merged so we can actually like launch notebooks and then put together a slide deck and video recording. It'll probably not be till end of month to expect like the code to all be landed. So get a slide deck out, review that with you, Matthew, to make sure you feel good about the flow of that, and then do a recording based on that slide deck.
So I think we should have both things, a recorded version of the slide deck and the slide deck itself, so that if someone's at the booth, they can give a live presentation. You know what I mean? So
sorry. Yeah, yes. I was saying we'll get the slide deck kind of ratified first and then kind of do the video based on that.
With captions by one of the maintainers. One, two of the maintainers. Should say come to booth at XXX time to talk to maintainers about Notebooks 2.0. I'm going to make sure people are there, obviously. And then just like a normal slide deck, which booth staff can use to present and answer questions about Notebooks 2.0 when asked. Cool. Anyone else want to add anything they want to do or any other ideas people have? Everything is a good idea. Everyone is welcome to Eddie, Kyle. Anyone else going to be there? Is Andy, have you managed
I got clarity that no, I'm not. In the future, I need to make sure I get approvals 2 months out before the date. So
that's why I was worried. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Is it more of like an internal thing? Like if someone else gave you a sponsored ticket, would it help or not really?
At this point, no, with hotel and travel and everything else, yeah, it's yeah.
I probably can't pay for your hotel, but I can I could definitely get you a ticket, but I probably can't pay for your hotel. Okay, cool. Let's yeah, okay, cool. Anyone else in this call who is attending just so we can confirm? Is Eder managing to attend?
I'm not sure actually now if he is or not. I'll follow up with him, but
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
it's not clear.
Okay, cool. Either way, Valentina is, and we can just train her how to say the words that are necessary, maybe. And probably there's some other red hat people we could also pull into the booth to just like sit there for half an hour or whatever and
Yeah, I
answer
know
questions.
Francisco is going to be there. He's already signed up for at least one booth
Yeah, but he's
slot.
gonna be selling. He's gonna be selling his own components. You know what I mean? We gotta have
True.
someone who
Yes.
really believes in notebooks. You know.
Yes.
I'd love to get. Obviously, I'll be there some of it. I won't be able to be there for all of it, but that's kind of where I'm saying we should have a slide deck that you guys get to speak on if for a recording, and also that we can just say, hey, Matthew will be there at this time. If you want to ask questions, go there at that time. And then obviously I'll train Chase and Valentina and all the others to answer basic questions, and then we can maybe have a Slack channel. We can probably, yeah, that's a good question. We could probably, for people here, maybe that's actually what we should do. Have like a place where people can ask questions real time to other people who happen to not be there. You know what I mean? Like, and then maybe one or two of them want to be contributors, and then they're more hooked in.
Yeah, so
Um,
there I'm more than happy then to virtually man a Slack channel
let's do
or
this. Yeah, yeah.
whatever.
Slack, like virtual booth. You know what I mean? Okay, so like we should suggest that people join a Slack channel. I guess the question is use notebooks one or create new one. Um uh on this channel we could staff it with people who can answer more questions about notebooks 2.0. Because like what I want to do obviously is the people who are going to be there are going to be representatives of lots of big companies that I think are going to be for the first time ever like, oh, actually maybe we should consider not building our own notebook engine for Kubernetes, like, or notebook is the wrong word, but like workspace engine, like the interactive development environment engine. And this kind of like, we had Apple on here previously being like, hey, we kind of think this might work for us. And so places like that. So there's going to be a lot of other companies like that where they'll walk by and be like, oh, I know what Kubeflow is, but Notebooks is kind of not that great right now. But oh, like, that's a brand new product. Cool. Maybe I want to contribute because that's where we get new contributors. Like, because I think
Right.
we're maybe not likely to find another vendor who's willing to sell it, at least not for a while. But users who will be less likely to drive releases. But anyway, this is all I'm saying here is I think this is actually a pretty cool idea. I think maybe we should suggest this for the other booths as well, for the other big projects as well in the project. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'd say probably just existing channel because that's where we would want them to be anyway. And
it's a
we,
question of logistics, right? Like, because there are thousands of people who attend KubeCon, and that's just like where I don't want it to get disruptive. Where it's like if Notebooks 2.0 ends up being like a bit of a buzz around the pro community, like it could be a problem. I can
yeah,
like
that's
this.
fair. Is it like I don't like? Is it cheat like with the CNCF Slack? Can we just create a new Slack channel? Or is there
Yeah,
like
because it would just be like effectively a temporary one. You know what I mean? Like where you
right?
just yeah. And yeah, I think anyone can create them. So
I've never tried, yeah, but okay, cool. So yeah, even if we did like a KubeCon 2020, KubeCon NA 20, like Kubeflow notebooks, KubeCon NA 2025, or just KubeCon.
and then we can have a
Um,
QR code that links people to it.
yes.
That's the idea here. Cool. QR code that links people to a new channel. Cool. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, so anything else anyone wants to talk about KubeCon? Going once, twice. Yes. Okay, so dashboard. I know that there was lots of work happening on Notebooks 1.0, but I'm not sure what's happening with the dashboard.
Commodus, I saw just this morning merge some PR on refactoring some test stuff that him and Julius wanted. He did from kind of pipe cleaning some things, found some issues.
Mhm.
I've just been tied up with other stuff. I told him worst case on Monday, I'd pivot back around and get reviews on these things for him. So he's just charging forward. And I've been talking with him in Slack, so he's like aware of um,
Oh, we
where
need
I'm
to
at.
add labels. So that we get the benefit of the labels here. We need to add labels as well. Let me
But
just
yeah, so I will plan to time box some time on Monday to get some of his PRs reviewed so we can move forward. But he's doing a good job driving forward on that. So I think once we go through the order of PRs that he needs, he has a good path forward to getting this released or at least like tested on like an alpha capacity.
okay, cool. And where are we on the like migration of the auth and other stuff like that? I don't think that's ever even
So
started yet,
that's
right?
yeah, so that hasn't been touched yet.
That's the part I most care about.
Right.
Is it's going to help the project overall be more adoptable. Okay.
Well, I mean, I do know tangentially part of some of these PR fixes that Kimonis has is around like missing stuff in manifests, and well, this should really be in the components. So I'm sure like Kimonis is in a good headspace once we
Oh no,
get these.
Komodos and I are perfectly aligned
Yeah,
on
yeah,
this.
yeah.
It's the question is actually just how much of the manifest we pull
Right,
into the dashboard. So it's like there will be a little bit of a community debate, I'm sure, around like obviously one answer is literally everything that's not a part of a component. You know what I mean? Like so literally anything that up to and including the SDO install configs. You know, like just literally everything
right.
could be there. I'm not sure that that's a good idea, but I think anything SDO is the complicated one because it includes some auth configs, which I'm sure we will see when we look at your doc in a second. Okay.
Yes.
So anyway, let's keep going. Okay. So anything that's blocking us here, do we know what Kimonos, if Kimonos needs help or other things? I think we should do this thing as I was saying. Let's add labels. We'll do that in the meeting afterwards, maybe. But just
So
to
yeah,
make
nothing blocking, just my time and availability. But like I said, I've been communicating with Kimonis on Slack, so we're on the same page there. And he was comfortable with me picking this up on Monday.
well, hopefully he manages to get some stuff done. I can see there's some stuff being merged. Okay, cool. Let's keep going. No other things anyone wants to say about this? Okay, cool. So notebooks 1.0.
The Israeli team is back, so I saw a bunch of PRs updated in the last like 18 hours on feedback I have given them. Kimonis was also re-reviewing some changes, and he kind of agreed with the reviews that I gave. And so again, it'll just be like Monday, I'll review like 30 freaking PRs, and we should, get closer here. Liav, I think on the Red Hat side is going to be driving a lot of this more so than I moving forward. I need to sync with him on that, but he can create issues. I was just talking with him this morning on stuff, so I think he has a good grasp on the basic migration and what we laid out in the working group notes there. So I anticipate next week to make tremendous
So where are
headway
we
on
up
that.
to on this?
What's that? I'm sorry.
Where are we up to? So we finished
We're still
tests.
on step one, but like now at least I think I saw a bunch of developers rebase their PRs based on the feedback that I gave them. So I would hope that we can get the rest of that step one. I would like to think we could be good by like Monday of next week. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then deploy PRs are being opened. I just haven't looked at those yet because I wanted to make sure all the test stuff got in first, and then that'll be the next point of focus. And then Liav was starting to look at like, the cut script to help, some of the utility scripts we have in Kubeflow automatically updating image references on releases and stuff like that. He was starting to kind of flesh out some of those other pieces.
Do you remember to update this label v1 as well here, I think, because then otherwise the PRs that update labels in the v1 branch don't get the v1 label. Okay, cool. So nothing else blocking us there then?
No, nothing blocking. It's just, yeah, now that the team's back and like working, I imagine next week we'll have significant progress.
Cool. Okay, cool.
I added these top two, Matthew. So I had created, I'm just kind of wondering in terms of like structuring. So we have this priority number two, but it's like a grab bag of a lot of things. So like, the secrets API, should that be its own like should priority two
So priority two
encompass
is
like,
priorities, not epics. It's just a completely overarching idea that I'm just like trying to use to focus everyone.
okay.
It's like an initiative rather than a task.
Okay, cool. So I think so I ended up having like one epic mapping to that, but it would be like massive. So I'm gonna do
Yeah,
a
don't do
little
that.
bit of.
Yeah. I'd
Okay,
suggest
I just wanted to make sure you were okay with that. So there'll be multiple epics that feed into priority two. That's really all I
like
wanted to touch
like
on.
these priorities will remain. They might change order, but they will remain, if you know what I
Okay.
mean.
So
Like
nope, that's fine. So okay, cool. That makes sense with me. I just wanted to check to make sure. So I think that point is good. And then the next thing, we can probably cue this to the end of the call, but as I was testing stuff as part of the deployment guide, yay pipe cleaning, there's some, I think we're going to need to do something here. Workspaces controller right now, the way that the deployment guide works, it has its own namespace that's not decorated with any Istio labels. So you deploy controller. It does not have sidecars. And then I was going to pull in and test your secrets PR changes. So I update the image, which then, because the namespace was updated to have the Istio inject from front end and back end being deployed, then webhooks is broken on controller because there's no authorization policy or anything. So there's a bunch of different ways to fix this. adding an authorization policy to controller. We definitely really probably want to restructure the manifest like you've talked about. We could opt the deployment out
Yeah,
of,
I'd say that just because the reason for that is
but I did notice like Notebooks V1 does have the Istio sidecar injected on it. So that's why I just wanted to kind of bring the stuff to talk about
I
real quick.
don't.
So I
Is
could,
there a validating webhook in Notebooks V1?
oh, there might not be a validating webhook though. Yeah, I didn't
Yeah,
look at,
and separately,
yes,
there's one other thing you're not considering, which is the outward bound connections that the culling controller might have to make.
correct. Not
Um,
considering that.
yeah, so I don't know if that's a problem though, actually thinking about it, because that, at least under the current design, I don't remember.
Well, for
Or
what it's worth, because it was easiest, I did patch the deployment with inject Istio false, and then
that's what I
everything
would have
went
done,
back to
yeah.
working.
That's
So
what I would
that's
have
the
best done.
easiest thing to do. So we don't need to do kind of the large. We do want to refactor these manifests, but I would hate to like do that just to get a reasonable set of steps in the deployment guide.
Yeah, the issue is that so for the culling controller piece, if everyone doesn't know, is the piece which has the controller pause notebooks which are not in use. One of them will use kubectl's X API. It's not kubectl, but it'll use the backend Kubernetes WebSocket thing that does that. But the one that does an HTTP query um against Jupyter Lab, I think that one might have to go through the pod making an actual HTTP request. You know, like so I think because the kubectl one will just work because it pulls it into the API, but because it talks directly to the Kubernetes API. But the one that makes a JSON like payload query, I wonder that one's going to need. In fact, it has to be in Istio because the pod won't talk to it unless it's in Istio. You know what I mean? Like that's like and in fact, it'll be a special authorization policy that's necessary for that to work. Now, then the question becomes, A, do we need to split the webhook off onto its own thing? I don't like to do that if we don't have to, just because it means
Agreed.
that caching is going to double the amount of memory in a big cluster. That is what a lot of projects do, though. It also produces the possibility of a conflict of versions between the two. How do you tell? I mean, Istio, you can just make a you can effectively buy. The issue is that we just need to account for any possible Istio config that the user has, and so like there's just a lot of them, and so I think it's possible to create like a blast through the. Well, I guess we just make an authorization policy that allows from anywhere on the webhook port, but it's we need to just confirm where the webhook actually runs from. Like I think it runs from the kubelet, right? And then the problem is how do you identify the kubelet? You can't. It means you need to allow from everywhere. So
Right. That's yeah, what
um
I was looking at. Yeah.
so and also if you use mutual TLS, it won't work. So you need to. There is a config which is effectively to blow through a port and say it's not an authorization policy. It's like a destination rule or something that
Yes,
says
I did see that where you can just say, yeah, allow, or at least on, I think that was just for egress though, or something, but, or
So
I
I'd
could
say
be,
look at it for the context of, so there's a lot of docs about it publicly on MySQL because MySQL doesn't work over Istio. So like that's probably the best way to just find an example of it. But then we need to just evaluate to make sure that there's no accidental cases where an admin could have made an Istio config that's reasonable that would prevent this working. In which case we'll need to think about it. Okay. So yeah, but for now, I would suggest doing this because right now, strictly speaking, that other feature isn't even in the project. So like,
right. Okay. So yeah. So, okay. I'll do a small PR just to opt the
and
deployment
put a
out and
note
then,
above it though. Put a note above it which
yes.
says this is turned off because of uh, uh, needing to make sure that the webhooks work. I don't know.
And
Like
for now, just so we don't lose it, I did create a culling epic. It doesn't have anything, but I'll at
there is a
least get a
PR
Git.
that someone has raised. To be very
Someone
clear.
has raised that, yes, but I'll at least get an issue under that culling epic in our board that talks about validating this with Istio. So it'll be a crappy issue, but that way it's in project, so we don't lose sight of it when we turn our attention to that.
Yeah, because like it was one thing to just like solve it by like making a config that works on the reference Istio, but my concern is that just like admins can do a lot of different things with their Istio
Yes.
configs. And this is part of the problem with using Istio. Okay, let's continue then. Anyone else got anything for that before we move on to the priorities? Okay, keep going. So priority one is always at the moment, or until you bring that down. Okay. So priority one is to is to be able to run Notebooks 2.0 inside Kubeflow dashboard, meaning be able to deploy it effectively. Obviously, this is important for end-to-end testing. It's important for uh, demoing. It's important for the project. So I think we have most of these things done from a lower level perspective. We've got manifests for the backend, front-end controller. We've got container images for every commit being built automatically. We have in progress work on this, how to deploy a specific one for explaining to developers how to use these manifests. I don't think people will be watching this far into the meeting, but anyway. But what I just wanted to highlight was the intention of this doc is to be used by vendors and people who will be making distributions of Kubeflow notebooks, and that includes people who are going to effectively, anyone who's using Kubeflow notebooks directly, in my mind, is a distribution owner of their own distribution. So yeah, so this, while it is quite technical, it is more aimed at, like, so we intend people to use Kubeflow notebooks. We want as many people as we can to use it, but just given the complexities, it's usually going to be necessary in the same way that people use GKE and EKS for their Kubernetes. So, do we want to do you think it's ready to do a basic show of that first part of it, Andy?
The first part, yes, and I did start to do some of the trivial changes to format code blocks better and whatnot. I still want to collaborate with you to get the wording on stuff, but the first part up through all the kind of base foundational stuff, right? Not dealing with the 3 notebooks components themselves, but the rest of that is
Where's
I
the
mean,
place I can find it?
if you go under my update, the link is under my stand-up update, the really, really long one.
Yeah, so this is not on the repo yet, but just so that people can see it. It's this again, it's aimed for development, and this will turn into a distribution guide or a white labeling guide. I don't know, something like that. And so the goal is to kind of give enough context that someone could take the unreleased manifests and container images and deploy and use Kubeflow Notebooks 2.0 in whatever state that it's in at the time. Of course, that will be rapidly progressing towards a real product. For real end users, again, we'll intend them to consume it through a distribution, and we'll make it clear that this guide is available to anyone who knows how to, who believes they can handle it. But the intention is for this to be give you the information you need to do things like swap the auth to your own auth, or only install notebooks rather than, installing pipelines and everything else. And so I'll just quickly, I won't go through them individually. I'll just say, like, so it's kind of grouped into cluster dependencies and in Kubeflow auth. The reason for this is because in the future, there'll be 2. One will be cluster dependencies, which says, hey, install Istio in this way, install Cert Manager in this way. And then Kubeflow auth will be the piece of Kubeflow auth that is going to come from the Kubeflow dashboard. Right now, a lot of the Kubeflow auth, unfortunately, comes from the manifest repo, even though it's not part of Kubeflow. So this is what we were talking about earlier in the meeting, that we're going to migrate anything that's not a component of Kubeflow into the dashboard repo as a reference usage of the dashboard, rather than as a part of the dashboard even. So, for example, there's some kind of, Cert Manager is upstreams, that's all fine. Technically, yeah, we come from Cert Manager. Istio is the one which has problems, which is because it requires this ext auth z http config to be set on the config for the Istio itself. Then there's gateways, RBACs, and Kubeflow auth, which is, again, the reference auth, not required. But so again, in the future, we'll be very clear that you can put your own auth here if you would like. You just need to know how to replace it. But of course, that's a little bit more complex than even most distributions are going to want to do. Like some distributions, like Red Hat, I'm sure will want to do. But for big users who are building their own distributions, I think they probably will just stick with this auth. But maybe even Istio as well. Okay. Anyway, and so then there's just examples here with installing dashboard. We will kind of improve this, and then we'll publish it on the notebooks repo. If anyone got any questions about that. So this is what I'm saying is the next step for getting this done, because yeah, that's just the next step for getting deployment as a guide to do it. So and then after that, I guess we can debate. Anyone have any preference for if we focus on end-to-end tests next, or this one actually might be important?
Yeah, it's one of one of those 2. I'm not sure which, but yeah, I agree. End to end might be nice, as we really want to kind of start to, like, ramp stuff up, and we're starting to carve out a lot of like new feature adds, so we don't keep shooting ourselves in the foot unintentionally. but I could see it either way.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's continue. Okay. Okay. Priority one. Anyone else got anything about priority one? Because it's like the most important thing. Anything blocking us towards deployment? Anything?
No, like I said, that was the Istio bit we talked about prior. I'll get that in, and then as time allows, we'll continue to get that document cleaned up so we can move it to the main repo, but nothing blocking.
Okay. Priority two. Again, priority two is just like, again, initiative might be a better word, but it's like initiative in this case is to make workspace interaction work effectively in the front end and the back end and the controller. So the main areas that need to be built are these things, which is obviously we're using generated API clients, so we make sure that we're actually generating rather than doing any hard-coded stuff. That means generating from the Swagger for the front end we're talking about here. So the front end JavaScript generates a client from the backend Swagger file. Swagger file, if you don't know, is an API specification document that like a JSON file that describes a full API and everything you can do with it. Everything obviously on that Swagger needs to be at least using a mocked backend API so that the front end team can know what's actually going to be happening in the backend. And so we've been working a lot on writing up the designs for these ones. I don't know. I think the only one that, so do you want to quickly explain how ready do you think we are to talk about the secrets one just quickly for people to see or not yet?
Secrets, I mean, let's wait to that because I didn't actually update the GitHub issue where I actually post the kind of agreed upon proposal. So secrets is good, ready to go to implement. There's one question I had we can discuss off recording before I open up the stub. I wanted to make sure I'm aligning to the model structure you have in the workspace update API for the secret stuff because I need the models to create the stub. But secrets PRs will start rolling out. I know Charles has been looking at and starting to think about what those screens will look like. So we anticipate next week to start getting some front end work rolling on that, which is exciting.
And also just there's a lot of new features that are going to be implied about every other API as well from this one, namely stuff like audit logs and who created this, when did they create it. And so elements in the UI are going to need to reflect that as well. You don't have to use everything that the API gives you straight away, but I'd suspect that users will care about, okay, who created this notebook, who last caused it, things like that. And separately, stuff like there's just a lot of interesting complexity here around secrets because we're trying to minimize the blast radius for users so that by installing Kubeflow notebooks, they don't just immediately expose all the secrets in their namespaces to their users. Similar to how we're going to do the reverse and remove some out of the box permissions for the volumes when the volumes web app gets replaced with the Notebooks 2.0 controller. So, 2.0 UI and backend. So that's another thing I want to highlight. There will be a couple of new pages on the sidebar under the workspaces section. So we've already got two, workspaces and workspace kinds. There'll be volumes and secrets as well, and possibly another one, which is jobs, but we'll come back to that later. And our goal is to always be pluggable and other things like that. But anything you want to say or ask, any questions here? Sorry, about other than this. So how are we doing on some of these other ones? Like create obviously is connected to this, but that's probably fine. We can come back to that. Do you want to have anything about workspace create?
I have a issue. I created the feature in terms of the where first step is to list workspace kinds, namespace list. I just need to create some issues. There's a couple contributors like not Red Hat that I thought I might throw some of that to because that's kind of carved off kind of nicely.
Which part, sorry?
For workspace kind list with the different kind of like RBAC, SAR work there to get that in place.
Workspace kind list? Oh, you mean where you've passed a namespace to the filtered
For the
workspace kind?
Bella versus Joel use cases, yes.
Yeah, so for people, I think just clarify me if I'm wrong, but like, so for people's reference and the recording's reference, we're talking about the fact that namespaces, not right now, technically there's no ability in the controller right now to do this. Well, CRD. You'll be able to say, unless a namespace matches this label, it shouldn't see in the UI, it shouldn't see the option to select this workspace.
Oh, sorry, no, that's a different thing. I'm talking about in the create workspace wizard. when you select those workspaces, that should be like list workspace kinds just has a single subject access review or self-subject access review, whatever. But if you're Joel versus Bella, that should behave differently, right? We wanted to condition that.
I think the thing we were saying was that it should be based off your current namespace.
Yes, but I thought, but you were just talking about there, I thought was more so a front end selectors thing, which is not what I'm talking about.
Well,
I'm
but the
talking
back
about,
end has to actually send the correct thing to the front end, right? So like what I mean is, so there's two things that can happen, which will definitely be possible in the future. Right now, we won't do it straight away, but is that when a user in a particular namespace, we want to support the possibility of filtering the available workspace kinds and available options within the kinds based on the namespace. Right now, that isn't a case even in the CRD, but it's pretty clear how you would do it. And so what that needs to happen is that the front end needs to be calling the API with the information in it saying what my namespace is. Of course, we do have a slight thing that means it's a bit more complex, is that on the workspace create and update, those API call needs to be enforced based off the namespace of the resource that's being provided. So the reason for that is because these are APIs in the end, the user can call directly. So the controller will accept anything because we're not gonna, in the case that the admin, so that we don't have to handle conflicts, the admin will be able to change these selectors at will without any impact to the existing workspaces. You don't have to validate that the new applied labels are the selectors are valid for the current workspaces. And so we just need to make sure that the front end is providing its namespace when it's as step one of create workspace. You need to create a select a workspace kind, and you also need to get the options available for that kind. So the thing the front end needs to pass the namespace, which is the thing that is actually determining it, because the workspace kinds are a cluster resource. So when you list them, there's no namespace provided in your list query. But this is also now a debate as to whether we should have a namespaced workspace kind API path or whether it should be a query parameter. So we can talk about it later. But I'm just saying. So like either way, the front end will have to use the correct API, get that, and then realize that it might not be the same list as you will get from a different namespace. So like if you cache it, don't do that, things like that. You know, like it's any questions about and anything else is here. So any questions about that or other things?
so yeah, and then just for the recording, my plan for next Tuesday, Matthew, is we do some architecture review. I'd like to bring up the logos icons to get a little bit more specific on implementation and acceptance criteria, as well as front end selectors. But I'll have like, I won't
These
call
should be
this a,
pretty easy, right? Because
yeah, I'm not gonna like have a formal proposal. It's really just an open series of questions I wanted to get clarity on for implementation. So I hope by the recording next week we
we should
can
just try
like
and
I'll
get
have.
mocked ones in there, right? That's the main goal, at least. Like these should like just so that the front end just gets that feature for free once it just assumes that a path exists right now. You know what I mean? Like we can have like hard coded known paths, and then or maybe we should actually do it through a Swagger because then it can be generated like it's a get URL path for icon query. You know?
Yes, I can get that in. Yes, it's not the endpoint structure, it's the behavior, some of this. But anyways, we'll bring that up. And then
Cool.
front end selectors is a purely front end thing. There is no Swagger thing there, but we'll come with a list of questions just to lock that in, not implying it needs to be prioritized immediately, but I want to just understand the
Front
shape
end
of this.
selectors.
Um, yes, we called them, it's in this working group document, like this whole notion of selectors.
Oh yeah, but that's not even the front end doesn't even know about them. The back end just applies them for them. That's kind of what I was saying, right?
I think we're talking past each other then.
Okay. Are we not talking
Selectors
about
was
the
a
thing we
feature we've
just?
talked about in the past. You have like namespace selector for the spawner.
That's kind of what I was saying though. But the front end doesn't know about namespace labels, so the back end has to be the thing that provides that information to the front end. So what I mean by that is that's kind of exactly what I was just saying before, which is that we need to make sure that the front end correctly passes namespace information about the context in which it's currently operating.
Okay, so yeah, we'll
Yeah.
bring it up at a later point in time. So then I think the existing write-up in these working group notes on what these like selectors are is a little bit confusing because I thought it was proposed in here as a front end only thing, but now we're saying
It
there is
is,
a
but the back end is the one that actually interprets the logic for the front end because the back end is the only one that knows the current labels of every namespace.
okay.
See what I'm
So yeah,
saying?
yeah,
Yeah,
we'll get into specific. I'll re-review that stuff, and like I said, we'll have a curated list of questions to work through to
Okay, and
solidify
then
this.
logs and events. How are we doing with these at all?
Nothing on at some point we'll bring stuff up there, but focus on some of the lower hanging fruit first.
Mm, okay. Anyone else want to say anything about Party 2 then, or you want to say anything?
I'm good.
Okay. Anything blocking us here?
Like I said, I think in our working session today, just to understand some of these model objects so I can start to confidently like write up stuff, we'll
For
get to that
security, or sorry, for secrets or volumes, or for workspaces themselves?
for secrets. But right, we have an up like just to understand with your update workspace pending changes, you're like redoing how models like the structure of that. I just want to see what we're doing there to make sure it
I think
secrets
some of
follows.
that did get propagated out, but yeah, we'll see. Okay, cool. Let's keep going then. Okay, so Istio integration. So obviously this piece for everyone who doesn't know, this goal is to be able to Istio is the reference architecture for what do you call it? Routing from outside the cluster into specific pods, in this case notebooks. And so you'll be able to use non-Istio if you want using the gateway API, but right now we're just if you make your own distribution. We're not going to support that out of the box, to be very clear. But Istio will be the only one we support out of the box for end users. So I know that we were doing some work here. I'm trying to remember exactly what the status was.
Yeah, so I think if we have time today, we can review. I opened up the standalone PR to just add Istio into our end-to-end. I got that. It's in my status updates. Harshad, again, like I said, it's just been tied up with Red Hat work, but the intent is to test his changes on top of that, and then he'll, probably make some other edits to make sure it works well with his actual reconciliation of virtual service. But we can merge the E2E can merge first. It just puts it out there and nothing uses it, but tests and stuff run clean. So we can review that today if time allows. And then Harshad, like I said, hopefully by next Thursday when we meet, we'll have that PR, his actual PR number 500 hardened and ready to take it through the business.
Yeah, I think me and Hashad reviewed a little bit of his stuff,
Yes.
and I don't remember exactly how far we got, but yes, cool. Awesome. That seems like it's progressing. We probably should try and, while we're doing this, it would be so nice to have at least one more person learning from, because as this beginning part, it means that they'll learn a lot as we're reviewing, Like, I wonder if anyone else we want to onboard as a controller maintainer should be in those meetings, when we're reviewing that PR. I just wonder, is there anyone else from Red Hat or other people that we are progressing towards that or not yet?
Um, time time will tell.
Okay, cool. Let's go. Okay, so I'm going to skip over this for now. It's important, but we'll skip over the new feature idea for 2.1, if you will, Kubeflow Notebooks 2.1. But it's very important. If you're wanting to discuss this with me and you have ideas, please do. The quick overview, I won't give it deep delved, is just that the most valuable thing about notebooks is that it's off cluster, off your laptop resource. The thing that people are now doing is stuff that requires more than one server, but notebooks are only one server. So they're going to want to connect to like Ray, Spark, Slurm, MPI things, and other things like that. And the question becomes, how do we, rather than just having the user do that on their own inside of their notebook, how do we automate the provisioning of like an MPI job that they can SSH into, or a Slurm cluster on Slinky, or a Kubeflow pipelines even. We've kind of got this hacked kind of resource connection into Kubeflow pipelines, similar idea, and then Kubray and Spark clusters. These are, I think, things that will make Kubeflow notebooks the center of people's interactive experience on Kubernetes, rather than making, for a lot of people, that the login node on their Slurm cluster because a lot of people run Slinky on Kubernetes. And for a lot of people, their Kubernetes experience as an AI researcher is just, oh, I log into the login node. I don't think about Kubernetes itself, or I don't. And since there's no UI, anyway, just saying. So if you have ideas about this, please reach out. We want to think about the idea here. Okay, anyone else got any comments there? And then we'll go to stand up. Okay. Oh, Benny, what have you been working on if you're still there?
Yep. So I have been working on the some patternfly style some patternfly related style updates in the shared style sheet that have been merged and added to the repository. So there have been some style issues that were flagged. I went ahead and then I fixed those in the shared library repository. So those are all fixed and they have been incorporated into notebooks. For the next couple weeks, I'll be working on bumping MUI to V7 and then updating the Patternfly release to the latest version, 6.40, which is about to go out, just to make sure that we're on the latest and greatest. And yeah, that's it for me.
Anything blocking you or hurting anything?
Nope.
Okay. Who is next? Bad's not here. I mean, I'll skip over Andy for a second. I guess and you can go, but do you want anyone else to go first?
Charles or Paulo, if they have any update sets, they can go.
Charles, do you have any updates? Or Apollo, sorry. You're muted first.
I'm still working on some internal tests, so nothing from the community at this point.
Okay, and Charles?
Yeah, I'm just like I'm scoping the front end work for the secrets on the front end, and I'm also thinking about like how to organize it in the front end as well, outside of create workspace and edit workspace.
So have you seen the new API spec and how
Yep,
there's
yep.
lots
I
new?
have been talking. I've been talking with Andy on that. So yeah, I do have the latest iteration of it. Um, so yeah, I'm still thinking about like how to organize the secrets outside of like the form, since I think we will need that at some point.
I think,
At least for the
yeah.
admin. Yeah.
I mean, not even just for admin. I just think for the users, but I think whatever you build, it's probably going to look pretty similar to just a widget that can be made into its own page, is my perspective,
Yeah,
you know?
I think that'd be something we will gear towards. But we want to avoid like having a page for every single thing, I guess. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think volumes probably should have their own page just so that we can drop volumes web app. But for secrets, maybe we don't care about them outside of the context of a creator update workflow anyway. But
Yeah.
it's just a debate, I guess, to have.
Yeah, I'll get some consultation from UX as well to see what the best approach is.
But at very least, the MVP is definitely having it in the create update flow. So whatever we do, we should
Yes,
just be designing that first, I think. But yeah.
I agree.
And it might be different. Like, maybe since we have less, I guess that's a question I have for you, Charles. Are we planning to have a full tab in the stepper for this? Or is it a sub element of the
Right now
stepper?
it is like a modal. So we do have a page for create, right? And then right now when you edit or create secret, it has like a modal on top, like a pop-up. I think that's the best approach. Not sure if it should be its own step.
Because we have like
Um,
5 or 6 steps, right? Where like there's like
yeah,
the initial
yeah,
details and then there's
yes.
what are the other
Yes,
steps?
right now we have a like a pop-up modal dialog for it. I think that can probably we can get away with that, since like you can have pretty complex workflow in that, and I think that's the best approach so far. Um, as for you, so like when we want to display like who created the secrets and stuff, I think we'll have to see what the selecting a secret looks like, because right now I think it's only like creating secrets that is in the UI.
Because yeah, mounting is the main thing that I think we need to think about. Yeah.
Yeah.
And from an API perspective, the front end needs to make it won't see the keys unless it does a get on a specific one. So like you'll only by default you'll only have just the names of all the secrets that you're allowed to mount in the list. But then you'll have to if the user's like I want to mount a specific one, you mount the whole secret always just by the design of the API. But if the user's like, oh, I want to update key number 3 inside of secret number 1, you won't actually be able to see which keys are in there unless you won't be able to see the values ever, but you won't be able to see the keys even without doing it. We can debate whether that actually could be different, but that's more of a back end question. But okay, cool. Anything that's blocking you there then?
No, I just nothing is really blocking me, but I think that when we finalize the steps, that will give us like concrete confidence to go for it and then start writing the components.
Okay, cool. And anything else?
Not for me.
Okay, Andy.
Yep, I'll be quick as we touched on a lot of this stuff. The deploy Kubeflow notebooks development guide still in progress. I have this pull request 646, although the formatting there's messed up. Sorry. This is that Istio end-to-end PR that kind of Harshad's dependent upon. Secrets API proposal, as we were just talking about, that is good. So I'll get stubs created and some GitHub issues tasks written up. And then Matthew, I did review your secrets controller PR number 240. I just had one comment on there just to confirm behavior. We can discuss that after the call. And then pull request 639 is still actively under review. This is from an outside community member, which is adding the dry run query parameter. I'm not like, I'm still reviewing this. It's not ready to get LGTM'd, but this is kind of felt like a low-hanging, non-critical task that we can start to hopefully get some community engagement from folks on. But I'm still iterating with them on this.
What was the use case here?
To kind of like dry run as a query parameter to test, particularly with workspace kinds, since you're just like uploading a YAML file to like see if it would work before you actually submit it.
On the back end.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, and then it calls with, client options, dry run all in the, controller runtime client to actually run the dry run.
We probably should check how this works. Yeah, interesting. Okay, cool. We probably should only add backend features that the front end actually needs, but we should probably, if it's a good feature for the front end, then.
Yeah, well, I mean, we had talked about this on a call before that was the preferred behavior we wanted with like a validate button. So, but like I said, it's not pressing, but just to get the PR ready so it's there, more power to us.
I guess we should also make sure that the validation still actually applies when you're doing a dry run. Who knows? Probably does.
Yes. Well, but like the PR is not ready for me to like actively test. But the code's close to getting cleaned up in a good shape where then I do a much deeper dive on it. So yeah, blocked, like I said, hopefully after this call, just a quick touch base on like model structure, hierarchy, get that done so we can get some stubs created, and then, proposals and things that we kind of talked about throughout the call is what's next for me.
Okay. Any other topics or people who haven't spoken yet? I want to. Otherwise, we'll stop the recording and then we can answer any other kind of PR review things. Okay, cool. Let's stop the recording then. I will, if anyone wants to stay around, they can. We'll stay around for a bit doing some reviews. Thank you for coming. See you.